So my topic is about drug courts, and it is about the solution to drug addicts, that we should not punish them by imprisonment, but that we should use drug courts, which is a form of rehab or intervention. Okay, it's better. So for the criminal justice fact sheet. There we go. For the criminal justice fact sheet, so 70 billion is spent annually for for the imprisonment, and 1.6 million state prisoners, with 100,000 of them in jail for violating drug laws. And drug courts reduce this crime by 50%, saving 3,000 to about 13,000 every for every individual. Okay.
It's okay.
So out of the 7 billion, we can save 50% of that. So who's good in math here? 70 divided by 2 is about 35. So 35 billion just by the solution of drug courts. So what is the problem? The problem is long-term solutions needed for repeated drug offenders, reduce crime by changing the substance abuse behavior, and reducing the relapse of criminal recidivism, or this is imprisonment due to substance abuse behaviors. Just a second, let me just fix this. So, drug courts, I believe this is the solution. So, why is it the solution? It's because it's cost effective. It offers rehab services by providing counseling, education, and intermediate intervention and treatment. It also reduces cost, and it helps individuals to remain arrest free. So instead of going into jail for the same problem because of they're stealing for drugs, by treating them, this doesn't only help the individual, but this also reduces crime and victims also, and this lowers costs, revolving door costs, or because you change the behavior, then they won't be arrested for like stealing and other stuff like that. So it also reduces methamphetamine use. So visualization steps. So we're gonna come out with a like a scenario sort of. So we're gonna use David the druggie, and we're gonna show two different options: imprisonment versus a drug court. So let's pretend that let's have David the druggie. We'll grab one of one of her little examples here, right? Personification. So meet David the druggie. So he can't handle sleep. He's so caught up and he's so sensitive. He's so deep in his emotions. He's so worried about all of these things happening in this world. So what does he do? He goes to cocaine. So he goes there and then goes to the store, buys cocaine. And then he goes and then let's see, Tony the Tiger getting cocaine. And then he goes taking cocaine, and then he takes cocaine. So the first time he's like, oh, this makes me feel so good, you know. And then he goes again and takes some more, and then how much is cocaine, Scott?
50 to 60.
$50 to $60 per dime.
I don't know, probably.
So he's spending that much money. So of course he's spending so much money. What's he gonna do now? He spent all this money on cocaine. He doesn't have any more left. But you know, he likes the feeling, and he feels like he can conquer the world. So he starts stealing. He starts stealing from his neighbors, his friends, family. So of course, then there's relationships that are broken. So it's very expensive. He has no money, and he can't handle a job because he's been in and out of jail due to cocaine. What do you call this? violating drug laws. So he comes off of cocaine, and at first it's hard, but then he becomes clean. Unfortunately, he ends up back in jail and has a $320,000 fine, and there's no end in sight. So he goes to jail, and then he stays there for, I don't know, let's say 6 months imprisonment, comes out again, same behavior again, starts stealing, goes back in jail, and it's just the same thing over and over again. Influences his friends to do the same thing, they also end up in jail. Okay, so part 2. Okay, so his friends in and out of jail, and this adds more to the crime system. They add more prisoners. So let's see another case where we'd use a drug court in this option. So David the druggie, he's arrested. He's expecting another trial, so he's in a court. And wow, Scott, that's really bright.
Sorry.
Can you turn that off? Thank you. And then so he's using he's in a drug court, and he's thinking of all his options, like, what am I gonna do? So he picks a drug court option, and in there's so they do the youth. Okay, Scott, so what else do they do in drug courts that you know of?
They have ankle monitors, they have a curfew, they have certain locations that you can go to, and places where you're not allowed to visit, and sometimes they'll have programs that you're only allowed to go to during the day, so that you can only go to that program, and you can't go just anywhere in the city. You can only go to like a day program like Centerpoint or Arapahoe Douglas.
So you're allowed to be out in the community?
Yeah,
Just not
but like
certain.
only going to your programs. That's like if it's a really severe part of drug court.
So like treatments only, not, you can't like go out and to the store downtown or...
No, but that's only for the severe part of it.
Okay.
As you get through the program, they give you more privileges.
More privileges the further you get into.
Yeah.
So it's like a reward sort of, or
Yeah, it's like a rewards program.
okay.
That's what I know.
That's good.
That's a good point. So that was a good point you made there. And so of course you think, oh, well, if I just have to go through this treatment program, then maybe drug courts are a better option. So he did that, and he eventually got through the system. And after frequent monitoring and made sure that the goals or the intervention was effective for him, he was evaluated and he passed through, and they had a little graduation speech. And I'll read you the speech in a little bit. But after his graduation, a year and a half later, he's clean. He's neither selling or using. He's with his family, and he has a full-time job. And he has the skills needed to live a drug-free and crime-free life. So I'm gonna go back to the question. So what would you choose? Would you choose jail or therapy?
Therapy.
So that was a good point you made there. And so of course you think, oh, well, if I just have to go through this treatment program, then maybe drug courts are a better option. So he did that, and he eventually got through the system. And after frequent monitoring and made sure that the goals or the intervention was effective for him, he was evaluated and he passed through, and they had a little graduation speech. And I'll read you the speech in a little bit. But after his graduation, a year and a half later, he's clean. He's neither selling or using. He's with his family, and he has a full-time job. And he has the skills needed to live a drug-free and crime-free life. So I'm gonna go back to the question. So what would you choose? Would you choose jail or therapy?
Therapy.
So which would you choose, drug or therapy?
Therapy.
Yuma?
Right. Therapy.
How about Dodi?
Therapy.
Therapy.
That's right.
Teresa?
Therapy.
Good. So we all agree on therapy. So my summary is we've discussed the problem of the increase of imprisonment, offenders due to the substance abuse behavior, just the cycle of drug abuse and imprisonment. And so we've discussed the solution, which is the drug court, offering rehab services, cost-effective solutions. This also reduces victimization, like them having to steal from others, so that doesn't happen anymore because they're drug-free now. And we've discussed the scenario using Tony the Tiger, Chester the Cheetah, Chester the Cheetah. Which one is better, drug imprisonment or drug rehab through drug courts? So we both agree that drug court is a better option, as well as it's cost-effective and solves the drug problem. So what action do we take? Oh yeah, I was gonna have you read here from a letter. So here it says, I'm just gonna read a letter. I want to thank you all for your hard work and commitment in our second annual Celebrate Recovery. It was a great way to raise awareness about addiction and to support those recovering from addiction. I know that next year I will be just as successful, and I have okay, so our action is to send a letter to the Department of Health.
Chris, I want to start with you. Sure.
And my video just started playing, but I will show that to you. And so we're gonna send a letter, and we're gonna ask for more funding for drug courts, and why it is so important that this is implemented statewide. So I'm gonna end this speech with a Martin Luther quote. Take the first step in faith. You don't have to see the whole staircase. Just take the first step. So that's for like rehabs. So
First step is writing.
first step is the letter. So I hope you get all your cooperation, and that's the end of my speech.
Thank you. Thank you. Very good.
So do you have any questions, or I'll have some questions for you guys? Any questions for me? Scott?
Let's write a letter.
No.
No.
So I have to answer some questions, so I can come up with a question and I'll answer them.
Any question?
So my first question to you, do you agree or disagree with drug courts?
We agree.
Okay.
We agree. You agree, Scott?
Yeah.
Okay.
So what would be a different option for drug courts in your option? Like if you didn't have drug courts? Go ahead. Dodi?
I don't have any questions.
Oh, okay. So how about something like rehab in jail, which is something that's also been going out, which is similar to drug court.
Yeah, that's good too.
So
Right, Lisa?
and while they're in jail, part of the
That-
activity, the programs is
Rehab
like
in jail. If you're in jail, one option is rehab in jail. That would
Rehab
work.
in jail.
That's good
rehab
too,
in jail. So
right? Yeah, that's another
they'll do
option.
like the same treatment process in the jail.
In the jail?
Yeah. So
Going an hour.
they'll have the UAs. They'll have a plan for you, and then they'll try to implement it in the jail system.
No jail.
No jail.
I'm not going to jail.
Um,
I'm staying away.